Yo, 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 welcome to another episode of New Spurs Order. I will be one of your co-hosts today, man like Tops. It's been a little minute since I've been on the pods, just been a bit busy with work and trying to keep my ears to the streets with all this transfer stuff. But I'm back today in a two-man job with man like Sting, aka Jack. What's going on, my boy?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. We're kind of on the up, but that depends on external circumstances, which we'll get into, obviously. But yeah, not bad, not bad. Frank Army.
Yeah, man. Thomas the Frank Engine, man. Him and his army seems to be choo-choo on straight from the beginning of the season. So we've got a lot to get into as we kind of dissect the week, dissect the transfers, and obviously a preview for the upcoming game before the next international window. But before I do any of that, I just want to obviously plug all of the socials. So for everyone that usually locks into us, please like, share, and subscribe. All content to do with New Spurs Order, Touchline Fracas. Please interact with us guys on the Twitter/X page. We are very active on there. Don't hesitate to like all of our content on Spotify and YouTube, and also interact with us on TikTok and Instagram whenever we put out stuff. But also to the bigger umbrella that is Touchline Fracas and all the other podcasts that are out there. So yeah, man, let's start first of all with the positives, bro. Game week 2, Premier League. We're heading to Etihad to face Pep's newly refreshened version of Man City, to which we win 2-0. Initially, like, tell me, bro, what was your feeling before the game? What was your feeling in terms of our history with Man City? What did you kind of expect? And we'll get into, like, the lineups and everything.
Yeah, we had something for them, especially after the Eze news that we got last week. I thought, you know what, we're gonna, the players and the manager know that there's going to be a bit of deflation among the fan base. So I always had confidence that we'll, come out of the blocks firing. And it is yet we've won there so much in the last 10 years, definitely. Like, it's become almost habitual. So I didn't feel like we'd be struggling in any way, shape, or form. But I think the most important factor was the Thomas Frank element to it. His tactical flexibility and what we've shown against a team that's going to be superior on the ball in PSG. I thought, you know what, that was a good precedent that we set for ourselves. So I thought, yeah, Man City, not as good a team as this PSG side or this year's PSG side. We definitely have something for them, and I wasn't that scared of them, to be honest.
It's crazy, really. It's crazy. Like, I talked to a couple of guys before the game, and I was thinking, what is actually going to be the case when we go to Etihad? Because it seems like we seem to have had their number, whether it's home and away, in the last 5, 6, 7 years. For some reason, Pep just can't put his finger on the Harry Kane team, and the ability to kind of get something over us, which has kind of been very, very futile for him, really. Like, do you know what this relationship kind of reminds me of? This relationship kind of reminds me of, when you're in school, and by no means, I was no bully, nor was I bullied. But when you're primary school and there's that one youth that gets bullied, and it's just like, he can come up against different man in the playground, he can try and kick the ball, he can try and take someone's lunch, but there's always one guy that he's like, yeah, man, let me grab that guy's lunch, man. Let me take his pocket money. Let me take him for everything he's worth, man, because that's my easy grab, And that's what it feels like now. It feels like us against Man City, especially at the Etihad, is an easy grab, bro. It's an easy grab, man. And I don't really get why. Under Conte, under Poch, under Ange, and now under Frank, we just have their number, bro. And it's kind of mad because when you think about the City team that was set up and you think about the way we set up, if we just go to the lineup, like we look at the kind of players that City really kind of sort of strengthen their squad with: Marmoush, Reinders, Shirky, Oscar Bob is now back. Plus, they've obviously got Haaland, Nico Gonzalez in midfield, and then obviously instead of Edison, they've got Trafford in goal. And we started with Vicario in goal, right back and left back with Spence and Porro. Usual centre back pairing of Mickey van der Ven and Romero. Midfield trio of Bentancur, Paulinho, and Sarr. On the right, we've got Kudus. On the left, Brennan Johnson, and then up front, Richarlison. So, looking at the way that the game sort of panned out, like, what did you think the first sort of half gave? Did you think we were good money for our lead in that first half? And where do you think that would kind of take us in the second half? Or how do you think the game would kind of develop in the second half?
Yeah, I thought it would go the way it did, in the sense of we'll press early on, we'll come off the blocks flying off the ball, and we'll strategically get at them, target particular players. We know James Trafford is new to this particular system, so there's going to be vulnerabilities. There's going to be a lot of gelling to do with that City team. So you got to target what we know is City's weaknesses, or what we perceive as City's weaknesses, for sure. And yeah, they just couldn't. They just struggled. Every second ball, we were there. Kudus, Sarr, Bentancur, everyone that was absolutely on job when it comes to any 50-50 second balls, anything like that. We were always first to it, and that was the more you know the team wants it more kind of element to it. And then obviously the tactical side with the pressing, with where we chose to win the ball, where we chose to increase the intensity and off the ball work. It was just it was an actual tactical masterclass in that sense. So yeah, it fed exactly how I thought we would go. And then we're obviously good money for the goals as well, despite the goals coming from fairly open transitions. We definitely that was how we were going to score, because we wouldn't have needed to work as hard to break a City team down, because that's not the way City play, and that's not the way we were going to play against them. So yeah, good money for what we got, and we knew that City were going to create chances, which they did in the first half. So yeah, it played out exactly how a lot of these games.
City games. Do you know what? You're right, man. You're right, man. Like, I don't know. I was a bit surprised. Like, I knew that the way, when I've seen previous teams from Thomas Frank sort of turn up at the Etihad, I know that it was going to be a mid or low block, and I kind of knew that. I felt like we would kind of sit in a back four, which I was quite surprised about. But he actually shielded the back four with Paulinho and Bentancur really quite well, to be honest with you. Like, he really kind of pressed and pressed and pressed, especially centrally. Didn't really allow them much, sort of, apart from in that first half where they did create chances, didn't really allow them really to get any sort of rhythm. You know, City had quite a lot of possession with very little sort of cohesion in that possession. And whilst they did create chances, they did almost always look a little bit susceptible to like a really heavy, hard transitional punch from us. I feel like Sarr did a fantastic job to make it very difficult for them from the off, not just in the actual game, but you know, from every single pass in that first half that they really tried to start or build attacks. We really kind of waited and timed or triggered our press at the right moments to kind of make it very uncomfortable for them to build up, to be honest with you. And in the end, you know, what kind of seemed like two mistakes, where Sarr wins it centrally, on the flanks, to which Richarlison, Kudus, and Johnson are flying through, and admittedly, it is a bit of luck because John Stones does fall as Johnson takes the shot, but is able to take the goal. And then obviously the second goal is really kind of an awful pass, really, from James Trafford to really allow Sarr and Richarlison to kind of press, win that ball back, and then obviously, very fortunately, Paulinho is there to drill that home. Like, in my mind, I kind of was like, I look at City and I kind of felt like, okay, The inverted fullbacks really isn't working like amazingly today. Obviously, Ait Nouri, he's had to come off in the first half, and we weren't giving Rico Lewis we weren't giving him much space, much freedom to do what he kind of wanted to do, especially in that second half. And obviously, you found people like Shirky coming a lot deeper. You found like Reinders wasn't getting as much time as he was on the ball, and obviously Gonzalez was getting his life pressed to death because of Sarr and Richarlison, really. So everything that City kind of do well, you kind of were looking at it and be like, there wasn't really much cohesion, like, and it's funny because when I look at Pep teams, like I always feel that they have these guys who kind of have the ability to do things just from the flick of a hand, flick of a button. The Fodens, the Shirkies, in the past, people like, KDB. And obviously, even now, these offbeat kind of players that they have, where you have someone like Oscar Bob who can kind of create something from nothing. You have Tijani Reinders, you have Shirky who can kind of create something from nothing. But we just made it so difficult for them from an aggressive point of view, from a intensity point of view. We didn't let them even dwell. We didn't let any of them dwell. I think they put out a media post where Spurs throughout the game had 16 tackles in which they won the ball successfully back. Where if you think about that, 16 tackles on any given day in any sort of match that would be sort of tight, you would feel like, okay, the team who gets those tackles and wins those tackles are probably going to be a team that kind of will probably going to be in a positive position. So I was kind of a little bit surprised that even as they brought on Doku, as they brought on Foden, and tried to change it up a little bit with Silva as well, the second half, like you said, it really played out kind of how the games in the past have played out. They kind of almost ran out of ideas. And actually, the mid-low block did really look quite solid. It did look as if they weren't breaking us down, even more so to the point where you even saw at points during that second half where Romero and Van der Ven were pressing as high as the goalkeeper, were pressing as high as their first third. So it was a bit of an interesting tactical battle. I was quite surprised that he didn't really go with the 3-5-2 or the 5-3-2 that he has been doing. But to be honest with you, I think the way that he used the fullbacks, the way that he used Kudus and Johnson to make sure that they supported that press, supported and did their defensive work as well, did their doggies essentially, was a massive reason why we were able to kind of nullify them.
Yeah, that back four was a breath of fresh air because you can play back three, you can play back four, you can play back five, whatever. It's not about how many defenders you have on the pitch. It's about the approach and the strategy that you allow. So you can have a back four with Polinia shielding and becoming that nuisance in front of that back four, essentially, and you'll get similar results as opposed to playing with a back three. You'll still get similar defensive results in terms of being able to protect that ball and being able to protect and allow or force your opponent, especially a team like City, to play almost a U-shaped formation or U-shaped approach on the ball. So that was refreshing to see. The other thing I noticed was the possession stats weren't that far off in that first half. And it's because we just kept winning. We just didn't let them out. Every time we won a 50-50, we won a second ball, or one from the press, the guys like Cherky and Reinders weren't able to assert themselves because we just kept winning it off them. So they couldn't dominate possession in that sense as well.
Weren't. It was so intense to the point whereby, like, you actually see parts of that first half and parts of that second half where the areas where Tijani Reinders and Shirky should be receiving the ball, they're actually having to go back deeper to try and get the ball off the first sort of phase because the press is so intense that we're not even allowing them to even get out of that first moment. So in the end, I really do believe it was a super disciplined, intense job away from home. We might not have played amazing football, but I feel like sometimes if you have a clear plan and you are able to execute that plan, because we look at the way that the game went, and I think to myself as well, what was the last game we played against a bigger side? And that was the PSG game. And we probably looked at that game and thought, okay, this is what we could use as a template, but there's some things that we do need to change. And one thing I definitely felt that we changed was one, we didn't allow ourselves to sit in, even in that low block, even when we were up, we actually still were trying to get them in a transition, trying to get them with a couple punches here and there. But the second thing that also really impressed me was the fact that we just didn't let City settle. Their performance in the end just lacked some solutions. It lacked some cohesion. It was disjointed. And like City are a great side, man. Like we can't really sit here and say they're not, because Pep has found many different ways of being able to play, many different ways of being able to improve what they have as a very, very good team and a very good base of players around people like Stones, Ake, Silva, Haaland. But for some odd reason, it just seems that like we can now say we have a manager who we know is tactically adaptable. He can make the right changes and set us up in a way that will, first of all, make us difficult to beat, but secondly, give us a platform to be able to break on teams. And this is where we now need the next development with regards to the recruitment, so that we can have guys who are killers, guys who will punish teams, guys who will give teams one or two chances, and that will be enough. And it's odd because when I look at this
lanky, yeah.
Hey, chill. when I watch this game, I'm not gonna lie. Like Sai did say as well, it did look like a kind of a tightish game. The way that we allowed them to kind of find their feet initially, but then once we were able to adjust, it almost looked like a top 2, top 3, top 4 match. And I kind of feel like us being able to play in this way kind of suits possibly what we could bring for Europe this season as well. So for me,
I was gonna say in Champions League games, that's definitely gonna be something that would suit us a bit more in terms of our pragmatic approach, especially away. So
yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, this is a positive. This is a positive result. I mean, 3 points on the board, 6 points in the first 2 games, no goals conceded.
Brilliant.
Richarlison, another sort of big performance. Johnson back on the score sheet again. Like Palhinha playing really, really well. Defensive setup really, really strong. Someone back into the Spence Penitentiary again. Like it feels very positive, and I'm kind of happy the way that this season has started, man. But
can I just say,
yeah,
Tiani Reinders, I've had an agenda since Euro 2024. Yeah, people were sucking him off, as if he was the next Luka Modric, all this business. I'm telling you right now, when the going gets tough, we saw in the England game as well. Guy goes missing. Any kind of intensity, it's cute, you know.
It's a different nice, man.
It's against some weak ass teams. Yeah, cool. Yeah, like, you can beat Wolves 4-0, but again,
I don't know, man. I have my own thought process that I can talk to you in another time about why City are struggling and why, like for instance, they looked so everyone was pouring over them last week against Wolves, but why they didn't look amazing. And I feel like some of these issues that they've always kind of had reared their ugly head in that game on the weekend, and they haven't kind of fixed them. But I mean, they're still going to be in and around. They've got killers. They've got Haaland. They've got Bob. They've got Shirky, guys that will change games on the switch of a flick. So in my mind, that was another 3 points gained, another positive stroke on the another win for Thomas Frank against Pep. So I'm very happy with that. But as we kind of develop and we move beyond this week, before the weekend game against Bournemouth and the end of the transfer window on the 1st, we are still in the market at the moment for some creativity. It's very easy to sit here and say Sarr did a fantastic job as that running box-to-box 10, making it hell. But we are still largely looking for some creativity in that number 10 role. We do know Maddison's out for predominantly the season, and we don't have a confirmed return date, although we do know Kulu will be probably back in the new year. So we kind of have to turn our attention to the links that have been put out there, really. We've kind of had a no initially now from Man City regarding Savinho, because there isn't a knock-on chain from Rodrigo leaving Real Madrid. And lots of names were kind of bandied around. Monaco's Akliouche, Ademola Lookman on the left, Bilal El Khanous at Leicester. And obviously today it looks like we've kind of landed really on Xavi Simons, 22-year-old Dutch player at RB Leipzig. What do you think? What is your opinion? What's your feeling? Do you think this is a move that we should really be pushing for? Do you like the player? Do you not like the player?
So you know what I said about Reinders, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna match that, yeah, and call Simmons another Dutch fraud, yeah, because
You're crazy.
Do you know what?
You're crazy, man.
If and when he inevitably has his medical and then goes to Chelsea, yeah, the guy is a fraud. The guy, he'll do it in the Bundesliga. He'll have all the time and space in the world to execute his little passes, his final third plays and whatnot.
Yeah.
He'll have all that space. Cool. Yeah, you can have him. He's mid. But if he does join us, however, I do like his overall versatility in his goal scoring, his passing.
Yes.
He's not a specialist in the sense of how you call Maddison a specialist in his sort of final threading passes and an ability to make those late runs and score as well. Ability to play set pieces, things like that. That kind of 10 that specializes in his on the ball play. But I think with Simmons, I haven't seen too much of him, so I'm not gonna act like I know everything about him. But in terms of the profile itself, it's very much something Thomas Frank would like. He would like someone that can cover all sort of aspects of the 10 and wide positions as well, middle wing, as you say. I think that's someone that we could definitely do with, and he'll bolster our squad massively in that sense, provided he does apply what he has been applying in the Bundesliga. We're going to need the goals as well.
We will.
How many? What's his goal return last season?
It was 10 and 4. 10. I think it was 10 goals and 4 assists. I think last season.
Yeah, that will be massive for us, because obviously we don't have. Obviously, Brennan's our main goal scorer right now. Richarlison looks to be the favoured guy.
Right now,
as a centre forward. Solanke is Solanke. He will get like 3 Premier League goals this season. Hopefully Kudus can get some numbers up there as well. So a player like Simmons, who will have outputs towards him, is something that will massively benefit from, provided he can do that in this league and he doesn't need too long of a settling in period. So yeah, the profile, I'm all for it. He is someone I have been massively disappointed in as well. We've seen at international level how he can sort of shy away from a game, for example. So yeah, it's a risk. It's always a risk, especially when you spend that much money. That's been reported. Was it 70 mil?
It looks around the number of around 70 million euros, around 65 million pounds, or upwards of 60 million.
Yeah, but technical ability is something we desperately need in that sort of middle part of the pitch, in that 10 position. I don't want Sarr to be doing the false 10 thing every game. That can't be right.
Yeah, I mean that works to some extent, but ultimately it will kind of rear its ugly head, the fact that there needs to be a centrally creative player in the team. And to be honest with you, I'm not against it. I think 22 years old, I feel like the ceiling is potentially there for him to be able to play at this level. I feel like having been from Barca and La Masia, then gone to PSG, RB Leipzig, PSV, RB Leipzig now. We know that we know his quality. We know how composed he is on the ball. We know how he likes to find himself constantly in front of goal. We know he works extremely hard, and whilst he isn't the biggest physically, he is someone that has kind of been not tarred, but labelled sort of a wonder kid for these years. And I feel like now coming to somewhere in the Premier League would be that sort of next step to him kind of being able to make that jump. I feel like he's explosive. I feel like he's kind of what we would need in that central area. He does like to drift from flank to flank, which I think is good, because I think Thomas Frank likes it when players are be able to be interchangeable across that front three.
Yeah, definitely.
And like you said, he has an eye for goal. We saw his goal against England in the last Euro tournament. We saw lots of his goals in the Champions League last year for Leipzig. So this is a guy that I think, if we can get over the line, this is someone that could potentially be the marquee signing for us. Whilst there'll be a lot of pressure on him to perform, I feel like with a lot of players that we have now, and also the setup that we're kind of going to provide for someone like him, it kind of gives him the balance that he needs in this team. And I feel like it would probably be able to project him to a bit more of a higher status in terms of what he can do, whether he can actually lead a team. Because, as from La Masia to PSG to PSV to Leipzig, he's not necessarily been the main man in the team. And whilst he's started his career fairly young, it's clear to see as well that this is someone who's extremely talented, who just needs to be given the opportunity.
Do you reckon, right? If his name wasn't Xavi Simons, yeah, do you reckon his career would be where he is now? Because I'm getting strong Enzo Fernandez vibes, right? The guy's got like a nice, cute little name, it's marketable and all that. But would Enzo be where he is right now and cost 150 more, however much he cost? If his name was Sergio Garcia,
like someone like this as well. Like, I did a lot of reading around him today and looked at quite a few videos. To be honest with you, I think it comes warranted. I feel like he has been kind of a wonder kid for basically most of his career, having started at La Masia, and he has kind of been given the opportunity to go and learn football all across Europe. Like I said, he's played in Germany, he's played in France, he's played in Holland, he's played in Spain. And whilst he hasn't really hit the ground running as a 22-year-old, he has shown lots of ability. He has shown lots of qualities that would indicate that his ceiling is way higher than where he's playing now, or actually than what he's showing as a player and what his ability kind of is. So I kind of feel like he needs to be given the chance to prove it. I feel like players like him, players like Enzo, players like Wirtz, there will always be this tag that comes with them, because people want to be able to see that what I'm paying for is what I'm getting. Enzo, admittedly, isn't really at that point where he is paying back what he is worth, but he's the captain and he is contributing regularly. And I'm looking at someone like Wirtz, who probably will find this transition quite difficult initially, because the Premier League is the most intense, it's the most physically taxing, it's the most demanding league in the world. So for him to have himself stomped on by Tyler Adams and Adam Scott in one game, and then John Linton and Bruno G in the next, is kind of a given. Every midfielder who works in the Premier League kind of knows that this is it. So I'm kind of hoping that, given the opportunity, he will kind of be able to step up. And I feel like we have the pieces in place to allow him to flourish. I feel like any midfield that has Paulinho and Assar or Bergvall and Bentancur will give you a bit more freedom to be able to do what you kind of want to do and you're capable of doing in the midfield. So I'm kind of hoping that he kind of just slots into that position kind of well, as like a dribbling, running sort of 8/10. And even if we need to maybe switch it up, where maybe Kudus comes infield from the right, and then he maybe goes out right or even onto the left, I feel like there's also some tactical flexibility that we get with him as well. I mean, if we're thinking about any of the other links, like, where are you with some of the others potentially, like Lookman or Paqueta? Do you see any in any of this?
I do like Lookman as a footballer. I think coming back to the Prem, we know what he hasn't. If he can hit the same level he has been abroad, back in the Prem, then we've got a good level of talent there. But do I want that profile in our squad? will it suit Frank? Will that be conducive to his abilities? And will his abilities be conducive to Frank's style of play? It doesn't feel quite as right. But yeah, and all the other links as well. I'm not. It's just not really convincing.
We're looking at this situation with Xavi Simons, and potentially if Chelsea released the gun, then potentially Simons is not even a player that comes to us. So we're kind of left in the position where we have 2-3 days left to kind of make a signing in that area, and Paqueta is someone that comes up. I've seen random links or talks about Rodgers potentially leaving Villa or Paqueta leaving West Ham, and these again are for numbers that are upwards of 50-60 million. So this is kind of interesting because ultimately we've given ourselves not enough time.
This Daniel Levy's Tottenham.
We've seen the situation with Maddison, and unfortunately we've kind of left ourselves in a position that's always going to be, you either left with a pile of mid or you are overpaying for players who potentially aren't really that good, to be honest.
Yeah, and Paqueta, he's.
I don't know. Dave spoke very, very real about him today, and I kind of agree with him.
He is a good player, but
he's an okay player, but this is someone who he doesn't really give someone that really wants to be a top player. He's someone who doesn't really assist as much as you want him, doesn't score as much as you want him to. He doesn't create as much as you want him to, and then he kind of pops up with random goals here or there, and he clearly has some level of ability. But again, is this someone that you want to spend 50-60 million to put your creative hub around, especially when he's come off the back of some very dodgy gambling?
He doesn't give us what we're missing, basically, and you can't be spending big money on someone who can do what other players in our squad can do as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. As we move on, we've got some squad changes. Luka Vuskovic has moved to Hamburg today on loan with no obligation to buy. And then obviously as well, the news this morning that we found out that Bissouma is no longer moving to Galatasaray because of the lack of physical readiness at the pro level at the end of August from Bissouma to not be able to join the squad and compete and contribute immediately. Again, first of all, very happy for Luka Vuskovic. I feel like slowly, people are starting to see that this guy is getting a little bit closer and a little bit higher in his trajectory of his development. I really believe we have one in Luka Vuskovic. I really, really believe that there is a quality young talent ready to go. This is someone who is a man he's a young boy in a man's body who has all the skill sets, all the ability. It looks like he has the discipline to be able to operate at a high level. But it just looks like right now, because of where we see him in terms of his development and his role in the team, it's better for him to play. It's better for him to go on loan somewhere and play so that his development isn't stalled as a 17-year-old, which I think is just crazy whenever I see him playing. And I'm not particularly surprised about Bissouma. I mean, Bissouma is...
Hey, listen,
man. Like I see all this stuff around this guy, and every day I'm just unsurprised that this guy is kind of where we are with him at this point.
Hey, you just come Whitechapel, do your balloons in your 75 plate range. Edgware Road, he wants to be in London, man. He don't want to be.
Yeah, it's true, man. Every time I go central, every time I'm in Selfridges, I always see this brother. I always see this guy, and I'm just like, shouldn't you be training, brother? Shouldn't you be doing something that's going to aid your development as a player? Like 27, 28-year-old, like I'm just, I'm done really with Bissouma. And to be honest with you, again, it just further pushes another sort of agenda as to why we are not able to sell some of these guys. You know, you didn't go to the tour, the preseason tour in Asia, so you had time to get yourself right. You had time to come into training, and still were left in a position whereby you're not physically ready to even join another team. So you're leaving it in a detrimental situation for us, because we're having to still try find an option for you to be moved on, you know, which is super frustrating, super frustrating. And it's funny because earlier on I put a tweet into the group where Millwall have just been able to sell Japhet Tanganga for 8 million.
8 mil, yeah.
From Millwall to Sheffield United, which is absolutely hilarious, because we, who had Japhet Tanganga as an academy player and developed him and brought him through the first team, weren't able to get a single penny.
Again, bad planning, waiting for deals to be done.
Absolutely crazy. You know, you always have to kind of go back to how we're looking at the development. How we're looking at the recruitment, and also the structure within that recruitment sub team, and how they're doing business. How are these guys operating like this? You know, we have players that clearly need to be moved on. Number 27. Bissouma, like all these other guys, just we don't need to keep these guys, and they're just taking up squad space, taking up wage revenue. I don't know, we ain't got long left, man.
It's mad that the irony of waiting for more money is actually losing you money. It's just it's insane. It's absurd. Just make those decisions early. You know these guys are potentially going to leave in the summer, so think about that contingency plan. March, you know, February time. You know this is going to happen. Just get it sorted, get it done. You know, talk to a number of clubs, get some values. You know, I'm no expert in transfer dealings and whatnot, but quite common sense to just make those decisions early so that you don't have to wait late. It gives you more time to prepare other things, other outgoings, other incomings. It just, it's Daniel Levy's Tottenham again. Yeah, outdated.
It really is, man. It just reeks of poor squad planning, poor transfer management, poor recruitment strategy. Just again stinks. It's got the stench of Daniel Levy again and again, man. And you know, like Toby said earlier on, you know, until we are rid of this man, nothing will really happen in a positive manner with regards to footballing matters at the club. But on to more positive notes. Having won the Europa League, we are in the Champions League, which is a pretty big deal, to be honest with you. It feels great to be amongst Europe's elite again. And I really, really cannot wait for us to compete in this tournament. I really, really am excited about the different qualities of team, the Champions League nights at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and just us being able to showcase what we can possibly do on the European stage, you know? So today was at 5:00. There was the draw, which we were in pot 3 with a lot of other different teams. But in the end, we were drawn for our 8-game stint. We were drawn against the following: Borussia Dortmund at home, Paris Saint-Germain away, Villarreal at home, Eintracht Frankfurt away from home, who we beat in the quarterfinals last year of the Europa League, Slavia Prague at home, Bodo Glimt away, which is a team that we beat in the semis last year of the Europa League, FC Copenhagen, and Paul Pogba and Eric Dyer's Monaco. Initially, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about the Champions League draw? Where's your head with regards to us being back in it? You know, what are you kind of looking at from an outlook perspective in terms of what we should be getting really from these 8 games and possibly getting into the next sort of stage?
On paper, probably the best we could have got, I think. The list of clubs, we've played Bodo Glimt and we knocked those 2 teams out anyway last season. Yeah, great signs. I think we I think we are a much better team under new management now than we were when we played them last season, a few months ago, pretty much. So that gives a lot of confidence to me. Copenhagen, that's another side, in Slavia Prague. They're two teams again we should be beating quite comfortably. They're both at home as well, so we should be getting 6 points from that without a doubt. There's no reason why we shouldn't be. And Villarreal and Monaco, I'll probably put them two on the same level, just because they will be a bit tricky. I know we're playing Villarreal at home, but that will be a tricky side. Marcelino's got them. He's done a job for them. Let's just say. I haven't seen much of them, but I'm aware that they're a bit of a threat. We saw them in pre-season as well at the Emirates. Nippy side. But the interesting one will be Monaco. Pogba, Eric Dyer. Yeah. What will they do? Will Paul Pogba reignite those Champions League moments he's had in the past for Juve and United? That'll be an interesting one.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I feel like the Champions League is the cream of the crop, man. It's the tournament that you want to be showcasing your club's ability, and you want to be playing in these big games. Like being able to say that we can invite PSG to White Hart Lane, be able to go away to Borussia Dortmund. I'm looking at this list, and even Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt, man, they want a little bit more. You can slap them back again, even better this time. But these are the kind of tournaments that I just feel that we should be in, and these are the kind of tournaments that you want the biggest players to be able to perform in. Yeah. I am looking at this group or this fixture list, and I'm thinking no minimum than 5 or 6 wins. That should be the absolute minimum. We should be going into this thinking we have the capability of beating 5 or 6 of these at the very minimum. And I'm thinking Paris away will be a huge one. That won't be easy. And I think, Paris away is the game that's we're away, and Borussia Dortmund is the ones at home. I think these are kind of games that we have the ability to make them tight. But I think where we can really sort of spread the gap is really by making sure that the teams that are from pot 3, pot 4, that we put those teams away. And what's interesting as well is that I think about City's run last season, and everyone had City doing X, Y, Z. But City went on this horrible run where they couldn't get a win for like 10 games. They lost like 6 in a row or something like this. And they almost didn't make it into the final sort of stage. Or unless they did. They made it to the final sort of stage, but they almost didn't make it. And you look at the teams that they played against, Sporting and teams here and there, and you're thinking there's no reason why City shouldn't have made it so difficult for themselves. But you're looking at the Champions League and you're thinking, okay, everyone knows that a Tuesday or Wednesday night, no matter what your situation is in your league, you're turning up for the Champions League. You're really making a name for yourself, for the club, and trying to show out essentially. So we can't also take these teams for granted,
No, and I think Dortmund can be food. Historically, Dortmund were food for us.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I mean, Son and Kane have punked these man.
We beat them 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Vertonghen game?
Exactly.
3-0.
We actually did. Yeah, I remember the Son and the Kane finish away from home as well, both games. Yeah. So, I mean, it does provide some nice variety. Potentially this year, I might try and see if we can get out some of these away games. I think Monaco away would be good.
Yeah, Monaco. If you want to play Monaco, stay in Nice, man. Oh, brilliant city. Yeah, plus, staying in Monaco is going to cost you an arm and a leg as well. So.
Yeah, there's no reason why a trip to Paris, to part of France, to be able to see PSG or even Frankfurt away, which was very hostile last season, but we managed to put ourselves in a position.
Dortmund away, the yellow wall, that would be a great experience. I forgot Frankfurt, they lost Ekatike as well, so
they lost.
That should be an even easier game for us in theory, but
I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking once we see the dates and we see what the fixtures look like in terms of how they fit into our season, I think we'll be in a position, hopefully with a strengthened position in the team, to be able to say, okay, things will be okay for us, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and obviously with the pending international window, this weekend we have a third game week 3 home game against Bournemouth, against Iraola's Bournemouth. Bournemouth, who have been somewhat impressive. They've made a lot of sales and a lot of changes to their team, but they've also backed themselves up with lots of really good talent. On top of Semenyo and Evan Nilsson and some of the other guys that they really possess in that team. Where do you think we will be? Bournemouth this season, obviously, they lost on the first day. They lost on the first day to Liverpool 4-2. They were able to beat Wolves at the weekend 1-0, but they interestingly lost 2-0 midweek against Brentford in the EFL Cup, which was the second round. I mean, where do you think we should be looking this weekend as we take Bournemouth on?
Are we at home?
We're at home, yeah.
Yeah. We have to get 3 points. I think we've got to lock Semenyo in the Jed penitentiary. You know, we've got to manage. Got to manage. You know, they've lost Huijsen, they've lost Kirkez. They still possess the threat though, so we've got.
They definitely do, man. Like you're looking at Semenyo, David Brooks, Tavernier, Adam Scott, Tyler Adams, Evan Nilsson. You know, they still have some real names. Obviously, Clive coming off the bench, Ian Adley, Haraho, Ben Doak. They just got from Liverpool as well. So you know, it's not as if they're not bums.
They're not bums at all, no. But we're at home. You know, I trust the management to actually come up with a strategy. He's a detailed man, Frank, so he's going to watch out for the small nuances in what Bournemouth do, where they'll target us, and he's going to pre-prepare for what they could do to us, basically. So I fully trust us to make those slight nuance changes, but assert ourselves, particularly in transition. I think Bournemouth will probably have a bit more of the ball probably later on in the game. I'd say I think we're not going to be a ball dominant team until we get out of 10, basically.
Yeah, I can probably agree with that. Like Iraola is interesting. He's the kind of manager that, whilst he does prioritize possession, he's also very high pressing. He's also very, very high pressing. So it'll be interesting to see how the two different styles definitely match. They have lots of players who I think will cause lots of problems. Obviously, massively, Evan Nilsson and obviously Semenyo. But I think this weekend, having had a whole week to prepare, you know, to further drive home some of the ideas and the processes that we have done so far. You know, I wouldn't say I don't think it should be comfortable, but I think we should have enough in this team to be able to beat Bournemouth at home. I'm kind of feeling confident again, just because the general team confidence from being able to execute so well last weekend, but also knowing that, again, you won't really have an opportunity to gain any points until 2 weeks' time, really, in the Premier League, knowing that you can finish potentially in the top 2 or wherever it is in the league before the break would be a huge vote of confidence. And obviously it would allow the players to kind of feel like, okay, even though it is 3 games, just 3 games, it would give us a positive sort of springboard to kind of
for sure.
The rest
and I think my thinking is I wouldn't worry about teams like Bournemouth per se. I'd worry about more stubborn low blocks. With our current setup in itself, we don't have that eye of the needle 10 that we're still looking for. We don't have, you know, that pinning approach. We did beat Burnley 3-0, but that pinning approach of a really stubborn defense, I think we need to prove ourselves in those types of games. So, which is why I'm more confident about Bournemouth. So I see a win personally.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a game that's going to be a bit more open, in my opinion. I feel like they have got a bit of a decent identity. They've built some level of confidence, and actually they've really started to perform a lot better in top 6 games. You know, having beating Arsenal, Man City, Spurs last season. And to be honest with you, you know, they really are a team that feels free to press. They try to dominate games with their possession. And as they're getting stronger and more confident under Iraola, they are being able to pick up more and more points. But I think this is the kind of game that we need to kind of put a stop to that sort of growing confidence. Teams need to not feel like they can come to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and take points off of us. And I also feel as well that, like, whilst Iraola is a very good manager, there are chinks in that armor. You know, I've always said I kind of feel that they press far too intensely and fade later on in games. I feel like they actually give far too many men in those pressing structures, which can be easily kind of picked off with the right sort of team. And I also feel as well that they're not particularly strong playing out from the back as a team. So if you can get on that first press initially, you kind of have opportunities in which you can kind of get at them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And we saw evidence of that last season. So whilst Iraola's got a lot of praise, there's a lot of flaws in this game as well. And they did give Liverpool a scare. What you said about top 6 games, they gave Liverpool a big scare.
They did.
So,
yeah, I mean, you know,
Semenyo just went on a mad one. He went on a rampage. So you got to make sure that he's nullified. He is their biggest threat. And if Jed Spence can have a good one, then yeah, there's no reason why we can't. You know, if you stop him, then you tend to stop Bournemouth's biggest threat. So yeah, I don't know. Do you start Palhinha in this game, or do you go with a more
I do
less pragmatic approach? I say
no, I do. They press very, very aggressively, and a lot of the players that they use are guys that are happy to press centrally. Tavernier, Adam Scott, Evan Nielsen. And I feel like we're going to probably need a little bit of a shield again for that back four. I feel like we will get some leeway through Sar's press. We will get some leeway through Richarlison's improved hold-up play and Kudus's dynamism. But I think we have to make sure that the game isn't something that feels almost basketball-y, that it goes from side to side, which I think we've managed to be able to control in games. We just have to make sure as well that as we do press them and try to open them up, that we don't leave ourselves exposed in any ways, to give them an opportunity, really. And one of the things I like that we haven't done much this season, there's not been many mistakes, which I think is important. I think kind of that's an easy give. It's an easy give for teams in this league who are at the level, really. So the lack of mistakes that I've seen so far has been positive as well.
Yeah, mentally switched on, win the ball in good areas, and then create very short but quick patterns of play in positions. I think that's what we've got to target.
I don't really see any reason why we shouldn't start the same team that played against City, because I know we won't have a 10. I think the only change I would maybe employ would be if he goes for Bentancur, I would say maybe go for Sarr, and maybe not start Johnson because start the last 2 games. Maybe go with Odobert or Tell and see how that goes. Or he could just start the same team. It's very plausible that he could do that as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Predictions. I think that's probably the next thing.
I'm gonna say 2-0 Spurs. I'm going to say 2-0 Spurs, Johnson and Richarlison.
Yeah, I'll say 2-1. I think our clean sheet bubble will probably burst in this game in particular. Yeah. I think Bournemouth are their positive side. They're dangerous, so they'll get their goal. But I think we'll do enough. I think it will be a tighter game than we think, but I still think we'll do more than enough to win. I think we'll be 2-0 up and then we'll concede maybe later on or something. But
yeah, I feel like it is going to be tight. There aren't any giveaways really in the league anymore, so be interesting to see. But I suppose with that, we'll call it a day. This is short and sweet. Thank you, Jack, aka Sting, for your co-hosting today. This is another episode of New Spurs Order. Like I said at the start, please like, share, and subscribe. All content linked to us guys at New Spurs Order. We are very active on the Twitter, but don't hesitate to tweet. Don't hesitate to like anything on Instagram, on YouTube. The pods will be out as usual on Saturday afternoon, so don't hesitate to lock in and listen. But also the main pod will be out on Monday as well, from the usual Touchline Fracas umbrella. And yeah, I suppose to that, I'll see you next week. Thanks, Jack.
Nice one.
Take care. Come on, New Spurs.